And once again, we are live. This is episode number 29 of Empire State of Baseball on this Monday, October the 24th, 2022, and exclusively on Twitch. Empowered by StreamYard. Joe's in a good mood. I wonder why. The Yankees have been eliminated from the postseason. We now move on to the World Series, where it'll be the Houston Astros versus the Philadelphia Phillies. I got it out of the way. I just ripped the Band-Aid off. That's what's happening. That's the truth. That's the fact of the matter. Tom, what do you got?
I mean, honestly, and I know not all Mets fans are like this, but Joe being such the classic Mets fan who just loved to bathe in the Yankees losing.
Oh,
he gets so I get no pleasure on the Mets getting knocked out. I really don't. I couldn't care less about the Mets getting knocked out. But some Mets fans, not all of them, but some like Junior, just like they get their jollies off by like the Yankees losing. They get so happy, and it's just such loser behavior. And honestly, Mets fans should be better than that.
It's not loser behavior. Listen.
You care so much about the Yankees losing.
You understand that there is not a fan base in baseball outside of maybe the Braves or maybe the Seattle Mariners that would root for the Yankees in any situation.
I didn't say you should. I just say you care.
Here's the other thing. You guys are sitting there like somebody kicked your dog and threw your mother in front of a bus and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you guys have lived through 5 championships. You'll get over it. You're in the playoffs every single year. I know the goal's to win. But me and Corey, we haven't been alive for a single championship. Most teams haven't been alive for a single championship. I mean, the Padres never won. Give them a break. The Mariners never won. Give them a break. Those fan bases don't want to see you guys win. Nobody wants to see you guys win.
I didn't say you should be rooting for the Yankees. It's just such a absolutely loser way to look at things that you get so much entertainment and joy out of the Yankees losing. Where
and you know why
I didn't bat an eyelash in the Mets loss. I said, "Oh, that was disappointing. The Mets should have been better," and I moved on my day. I didn't have like a shitting grin across my face.
It's fantastic, and you know what the best part was?
It's just sad that you don't have anything else going on.
Yankee fans thought they had a shot. That's the best part about this. The Yankee fans thought they had a chance in hell to beat the Astros. But who is your daddy? Houston.
Rich and I fans besides Steve last week, who I think only did it because he was coming off the excitement of last week's win. What fans actually thought the Yankees were going to beat the Astros?
Go back to the tape. We'll listen to Tom say this is the best Yankee team since '98. We'll listen to all that stuff when they were riding high. I love it.
At the time they were, and I said it's for now.
It's great.
Rich and I both picked the Astros to beat the Yankees in the ALCS.
We did.
They walked through you. They went right through you like you weren't there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll tell you what, though. I mean, you look at all of these teams, not just the Yankees and the Mets, but you look at the Dodgers, you look at the Braves. I mean, all of these teams, Yankees at 99 wins, but the other two teams I mentioned, 100-win teams, Dodgers, Mets, Braves, all over 100 wins. Yankees basically right there at 99, and all of these teams are gone. Just the Astros from that upper echelon of teams remain. Like Joe said before, nobody on planet Earth had the Phillies. I mean, the Phillies? Really? The Phillies? Yeah. They have no fundamentals. And then what happened? They changed their manager. They get hot at the right time. They seem to get every clutch hit. And it all started in game 1 of the playoffs in the wild card round when they had that epic comeback versus the Cardinals. And then there was no looking back. They were unstoppable since then.
They seemed to just get hits. I would have settled for that.
Yep, and that's a team that barely made it. They almost folded in the final weekend of the season. They just held on.
They did fold. It just no one took advantage of it.
No one took advantage of it. I mean, the Brewers were huge frauds down the stretch, man. I mean, a lot of people thought the Brewers were going to win that division, but they went ice cold down the stretch, man. And Phillies lucky to just make the wild card. Here they are now in the World Series. And I'll tll you what, that Phillies team, and I know we'll have a lot more Yankee talk to get to in a moment, but that Phillies team, honestly reminds me a lot of the Mets 2015 season, a team that was under
Yeah.
500 at the halfway point and really took a miracle run and a miracle postseason stretch to get to where they are now. Very, very similar vibes of the Mets 2015 team, in my opinion.
Wild start, and it's going to finish wild too. No one had the Houston Astros and Philadelphia Phillies as the World Series matchup. I'm sure on the American League side, obviously, most people felt confident that it was going to be Houston. Philly getting in. I mean, over a month ago on this show, we talked about how the Phillies can make an impact for the NL East Division crown if they were to win or lose certain games against the Braves and Mets. So we wanted some help from the Phillies for the Mets side of things, and yet here they are in the dance. So it's a crazy turn of events that happened in MLB with the postseason, and obviously we're going to continue our Yankees talk, and the Bronx is burning. Before we get there, Tom, best way to send all our quick links out to our viewers who haven't joined us so far. What do we got?
Yeah, so absolutely thanks to all the viewers watching live, whether that's Yankee fans here to come to commiserate or Mets fans coming to drink tears. We appreciate you all the same. To watch us live, if you are watching us on a replay, you want to download the Twitch app and you want to subscribe to Empire State of Baseball. We have the link in our Twitter bio. It's where you're going to be able to watch us live, interact in the chat, get your comments on screen, and definitely the best way to consume this train wreck of a show.
Well, Joey's using the tears. I don't even. What was that? You using as the deodorant before? I don't know what the hell. What was that move?
Showering.
Oh, you were showering. You can use the deodorant, you smelly bastard. All right, the Bronx is burning.
It's on fire.
The Bronx is on fire. Absolutely. Now this is an
The problem is it isn't
for this segment. The Bronx is burning. Yankees get swept by Houston. We can take this a few different ways. I guess we could just start with reviewing the series itself. They got swept. I think the Yankees had a couple games in there where they were in it, especially last night's game.
Game 1, 2.
Once you get past a game 3 scenario where you're down 3-0, you have to almost you got to pack it in. Yeah, that's that. I mean, they put up a fight. It looked like, offensively speaking, yesterday, another defensive woe did them in. This team was just completely outmatched by the Astros, and it's a shame because it looked like a couple of moments in those first 2 games, Tom. The Yankees had some times where they could have taken advantage of some opportunities, and they did not do that.
They did. They had game 1. The game was tied, and instead of Boone and the Yankees brain trust, because there's no Boone is making decisions on his own.
Right.
Instead of bringing in a Jonathan Loaiza, Wandy Peralta, Clay Holmes, even a Lou Trevino, we bring in Clark Schmidt, and Clark Schmidt gives it up. And why is Clark Schmidt in a game that the Yankees... Listen, Houston is great. They are a great baseball team, and anytime you have a chance to beat them, you need to do it, because there's going to be games like a game 3 where they just absolutely shove it down your throat. And that's going to happen. They're too good. Winnable games you have to win. And they didn't try to, as an organization, the players in the field tried. As an organization, they said, we'll just not try game 1. It's fine. We'll just try to win game 2. Right. Again, game 2, another one that was right there. Bregman hits one out. Judge doesn't, and they lose that game. It's just
Roofgate.
My favorite thing about Roofgate was I was scouring through Twitter beforehand, and there were so many Astros fans who were like, "This is unfair. It's gonna be too cold for us. It's gonna be 64 degrees, and I can't sit outside if it's that cold." And then it's just funny how it just completely flipped the other way. I think the Roofgate stuff is also a little overblown. I mean, I don't think the Yankees players were going to the media saying, "Hey, I want to talk about the roof." They're just always they're asking them the question to get a response, and they have to be better. And they had bad responses, but that's just I don't know.
Boone's the one who brought up the roof. I mean, I don't think
he was asked about the roof.
Either way,
it's bad. He shouldn't have. He should have just said, "Listen, hey, it happens." But like again, it's just like that's the way it goes against the Astros. Like they get. I don't mean that it's lucky that they get the breaks. Like they get the hit in the moment. They make it happen. Where the Yankees just piss themselves and they have a double play ball, and IKF runs through the base, and then they don't get any outs.
Listen, I gotta say, all joking aside and all grave dancing aside, the Astros are a fantastic ball club.
Mhm.
When you watch this team, and yesterday is a perfect example of it. Yankees go up 3-0. Any other team is dead. 3-0 in the Bronx. The Guardians aren't coming back from that. There's no teams coming back from that in Yankee Stadium. The Astros do not panic. Cole turns around, gives up a 3-run homer to nobody else but everybody's
Nestor.
Nestor. I'm sorry. Nestor gives up the 3-run homer. Cole did the one before. But there is 4 or 5 guys in that lineup that are going to beat you. And if it's not Altuve, who didn't hit a lick, Alvarez really didn't kill the Yankees after he killed the Mariners the whole time. It was basically Bregman and Pena. I mean, these guys killed you, and it's every single time. And every time the Astros lose somebody, they lose a George Springer, they lose a Carlos Correa. Everybody questions, well, who's going to get the big hit now? Well, they got 3 or 4 more guys that get the big hit every single time. Their pitchers keep you in it every single time. I mean, McCullers is a prime example. Gives up 3 runs early in the game. Dusty sticks with them, partially due to the fact that he's got a 3-0 lead. And McCullers grinds out 5, I don't even know if he went 6, but 5 innings, keeps him in it. When he leaves the game is tied. So the Astros, you never see panic on their face. You never see that this team, there are teams you look at, when you go up on the Indian or on the Guardians, when you go up on the Mariners, it is extremely hard for those kind of teams to come back. They're young. They know they're beat. The Mets had this look. The Mets had the look of we're done. We're out of it because we're down 4 runs, at least in the playoffs. The Astros, it's never like that. The Astros, I think, are the best team in baseball. I think they're going to show the Phillies that the Phillies don't belong. I don't think the Phillies belong. I think they might be the worst team that's reached a World Series in a very long time. But, you got to cap because they're relentless, the Astros. They never, ever are out of it.
I tweeted after Game 3 that the Yankees won't make another World Series until they move the Astros back to the NL. It's just, can we give them back?
Give them
back to the NL, and then the Yankees have a shot. Until then, it's going to be Jose Altuve, will be 42 years old, hitting home runs off of Garrett Cole Jr., and nothing will be different. It's just like they absolutely own the Yankees. It's pathetic. It's pathetic how the Yankees can't just get better. Like in 2017, they took them to 7 in a year that they weren't supposed to be there, and every time since they've regressed. They've gotten worse. Yeah. Houston has lost players and has done better against them in the playoffs. It's unbelievable how inept they are of putting this together. It's so clear. The AL runs through Houston. So build a team. I'm not saying this is easy, but build a team that's going to go against them. You have to build a team that can beat that team. If you're not building a team that can beat that team, why are you even trying?
Yep.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, and we said the same thing in the National League with the Dodgers for all these years. The Dodgers were the cream of the crop, but the Astros, man, I mean, they are clearly the team in the American League, and until they're proven otherwise, they're going to continue to remain that way. And at least my opinion, I know we'll get into it a little more later, I think they're the clear favorite. I hope they win. Hope they beat the Phillies, because the Phillies shouldn't even be here, in my opinion. But I hope the Astros win the series. And we could talk a lot about what went wrong for the Yankees, what they could have done better. I want to call out one of the trades, the trade deadline, doing the trade of Montgomery for Harrison Bader. And at the time, we pretty much all killed them. I'll tell you what would this team have looked like if they didn't have Bader this series?
We would have had this Yankees elimination from the playoff conversation last week on the show.
Which is crazy. I mean, Harrison Bader, 333 in the postseason, 5 home runs, 10 hits. I mean, he led the team basically in all the stats for the postseason outside of maybe RBIs. Anthony Rizzo led in RBIs.
And Corey, if you told me, and if I was blindfolded and not known who did what, if you told me an outfielder put up those kind of stats in the playoffs, I would have been like, oh, Aaron Judge had a hell of a postseason. Yep. And he did not. And
complete opposite.
I can praise Bader for stepping up and even going into a leadoff spot, which it could be a role for him, in the future. But Aaron Judge, when you needed him most, did not step up. Giancarlo Stanton had a couple of moments. Rizzo had a couple of moments, but then the rest of the lineup was basically dead to rights. It was a pitiful performance from the offense. We did have a poll earlier today on Instagram. Follow at Empire State of Baseball on Instagram. We asked basically, what did the Yankees in? What do you blame the most for the Yankees ALCS elimination? And most 67% of the vote went to struggling offense, with a few votes going to managerial decisions. The offense did not come through. You know, you're not going to win games with 2 runs, and especially against this team. We mentioned how great the Astros played the Yankees. They took advantage of every small opportunity. Any bad defensive woe that was done, you know, in favor of the Astros, they took advantage. 2-run home run from Chas McCormick after a rare error from Harrison Bader. The Torres IKF mishap led to the Astros rally and comeback win from yesterday. So the Astros are just a better ball club. They are my World Series favorite. They're most people's World Series favorite for a reason. And Joe, I love what you put together before. They know how to replace talent like that. Garrett Cole signs with the Yankees. Framber Valdez emerges. George Springer goes to the Jays. Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez come out of nowhere. Michael Brantley's hurt. Sure, we got the offense. We got Alvarez. He's fine. And now Carlos Correa going to Minnesota, and Jeremy Pena, the rookie and potential rookie of the year candidate. If it wasn't for Julio Rodriguez this year, Pena went off, won the ALCS MVP.
Yeah.
Sorry. He wasn't even a top guy. Pena's not even like a top. He's 25. He's not even a top 100 prospect.
It is.
And they just like plugged him in.
For the Astros. And you're going to fuel more fires and boo the hell out of Altuve and say, fuck the Astros. They're cheated. Listen, you get to the fucking ALCS 6 out of 7 seasons. I got to tip my cap. You guys,
frankly, it's just like it's very disappointing that the Astros, again, they did cheat, right? Like, I think we all know. Joe probably doesn't, but he probably doesn't think they cheated at all. But like the fact that it's going to hang over them, because it's going to, because they did cheat and they got caught cheating. It just to kind of sour what is really this is the most dominant baseball franchise we've seen since the 90s Yankees. Is this run by Houston? Yeah. And they're gonna always have that cloud over them, and they should, because it's not, they didn't make a mistake. They made a conscious decision to do something they knew they weren't supposed to, and when they got caught, they kept doing it. It's a shame that is over them, because they are a genuinely great team who probably didn't need to do it.
Well, now this is a different team. I mean,
but it's still good. Listen, you can't say Roger Clemens' name and Barry Bonds' name without saying, the part of their careers that they cheated versus that they didn't cheat. That's just how it is.
Say this. The Astros need this World Series to validate their run. That's what they need. I think that is an important part of their legacy, to turn around and say, see, we don't need the garbage cans. We don't need this. We don't need that. We don't need all the other stuff. We can beat you anyway. And I think they're going to do that. Obviously, I think they're better at every position. On the Yankees side of this, it calls into question, the 2 New York teams have such a huge offseason, because the decisions that are going to be made going forward are going to shape the future for these teams. The question with the Yankees becomes, if you're not re-signing Judge, where are those resources going to be allocated otherwise? And where's the actual improvement on this team going to come? Is Rizzo on a 1-year contract, or is he on a 2-year contract?
It's a 2-year.
Rizzo can opt out. It's a $16 million opt-in if he wants, but he can go out and sign a 2 or 3 year deal worth.
He's going to opt out.
$30-40 million and
his season high in home runs.
Hicks is signed long term. You traded for Benintendi. I don't know Benintendi's free agent. Okay. You have DJ LeMahieu there. You got a decision to make with Torres if he's going to stick around. Donaldson, you're stuck with another year. The catching situation turned into listen, I like Trevino, but he had an absolutely horrible second half. The back end of that bullpen is completely deconstructed. You have no closer next year. It calls into question a lot of things. I think the only thing that's kind of set a little bit, at least, is the starter rotation. Yeah. And even there, you could use another reliable starter, because Severino on a regular basis doesn't stay healthy.
Yeah,
but
and Sevy's got a team option, so obviously that's going to be picked up.
He's going to get picked up.
They're going to pick that up.
Correct.
But if you re-sign Judge, your options to improve other than bringing the two kids up to play are very limited. There's not many movable pieces where you can significantly add to this team without
By two
think
kids, who do you mean?
increase in payroll.
Sorry.
So the Yankees, I would argue the Yankees are in a terrible position with Judge. I would argue that they have to re-sign him if they want to be competitive. But I would also argue from a team building perspective, the Yankees would be better off in the next 5 years if Judge was gone and you didn't have to pay him $50 million on top of Cole and DJ. And
That doesn't make sense though, because he's like, you need him in the lineup. I do think the Yankees can move Donaldson. I know he had a horrible year. I think you could find a way to eat some of that money and trade him somewhere. Hicks, I think, would be kind of tough because Hicks has more years left. But if there's a team, listen, if you could tell me, listen, we have to pay half of Donaldson and Hicks's money, but we can get rid of them. I think the Yankees would do that.
But then
tomorrow.
Who's taking their spots?
Who gives a shit? Donaldson was horrible
that's
this
what
year.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I think realistic. I mean, we're gonna have an off-season episode.
It would have to
get into
honest,
it.
Yeah,
I think DJ would make the most sense to play third. I know he's been injury prone the last couple years, but if you tell me you can get rid of Donaldson, you put DJ there. Hicks shouldn't be starting on this team anyway. I do like what Benintendi can bring to them. I mean, he didn't play much. He got hurt, then couldn't come back. But he is a lefty, a guy who feels who has performed in the playoffs before, gets on base. He's a guy I think you would love to bring back if you can.
Tom, if you re-sign Judge, are you going to have enough funds to re-sign Benintendi and bring back Rizzo and then bring back another pitcher and then get a back-end reliever as well?
I mean, they're still bringing back the same team.
Chapman and Britton are both coming off the books, and they are owed
Castro and Green.
And but Green's not making that much. Cash's not making that much either.
That money's going right into a raise for Judge. Judge is getting $15 million a year raise.
In the scenario where then you can cut half of Donaldson and Hicks's salary. If you trade him, you're willing to pick up Donaldson. I do think this does still have value. He does play a really good third base. And just 2 years ago, he was still a plus offensive player. Hicks, I don't know what you could really get for Hicks at this point, but I do think Donaldson is an asset. Look, Joey Gallo got traded, and I know that was just an expiring contract, but still, someone took on Joey Gallo, and the Yankees got like a top 15 prospect out of the Dodgers organization for Joey Gallo. So there is moves that can be made.
Donaldson should be exclusively hitting against lefty batters.
Donaldson should be exclusively the hell out of New York. He's been horrible.
I mean, he's not a regular anymore. So if your solution is to say, I mean, the guy hit 222 with a 308 on base percentage and 15 home runs this year. That's not getting it done. I don't care what his defense is. That's not getting it done.
Right.
And not to mention he's got cinder blocks attached to his feet. They need more contact in this lineup across the board, and I don't know where you can get those guys from without spending a significant amount of payroll. And it's not like for sure that Volpe or Peraza or whoever is going to give it to you. That's an experimental. So from a team building perspective, the Yankees have a big amount of question marks to fill because I don't see the easy answer for them to become competitive with the Astros.
From a team building perspective, the first question they have to answer is Brian Cashman doesn't have a contract right now. And I know the Yankees will probably just bring him back because why the hell not? But that is the first decision that really could be the domino. And if they don't bring him back and they do clean house, like I would hope they would consider, but they won't. You got to do that quick so you can try to re-sign Judge. I think realistically, if the Yankees want to get better, they have to move some of the shortstop assets that they have. I think you have to look to trade either Peraza or Volpe because I agree there isn't a lot of ways to upgrade the roster because there's a lot of people kind of entrenched where they are. The only way to do that is if you say, hey, listen, we're going to trade a Peraza and we're going to go out and try to get a real impact first baseman or go out and get an impact center fielder or left fielder. That's like the unknown that they have to consider because at some point, unless they're going to trade Glaber, which I think Glaber also does have some value. I know he's been up and down, and you want to put either Peraza or Volpe to second. Like you got to move one of them at some point. You can't have they have Volpe's a top 10 prospect in baseball, and Peraza was a top 40 prospect in baseball. You can't have both of them. Like they have to.
You have three middle infielders for two positions, and you still have other prospects coming up the farm that can still play those positions as well if need be.
They need to move one of them.
You have a lot of faces for just a couple of positions on this team. The Yankees have to move these assets, and they can't keep letting these prospects just marinate to the point where now they're at the value of DFA, which you've seen over the last year.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen it before. I mean, like you said, you look at all the scenarios you have with these prospects, guys who were top guys, and they just kind of rotted away. And like Clint Frazier, I think is a perfect example. The guy never really, in my opinion, had the fairest of opportunities, always would get hurt. It just never worked out. That's a guy you probably could have got a good asset for if you traded him earlier on. I did see Steve in the chat mention Gleyber Torres. I know we're talking about trading an infielder. I mean, I agree. I think Gleyber might be the interesting piece to trade out. I think you end up getting a decent player for him that opens up the infield spot. You put DJ there, Peraza, whoever you throw at second base, at that point. But you definitely have to trade one of these infielders. And I think the route they end up going is via trade. I just don't know if they're going to trade a Peraza or Volpe. They just seem to be so entrenched in getting these guys to the major leagues.
I don't see a scenario where you can have like employed on your team next year Gleyber, Peraza, and Volpe, because it's three guys for two spots. And again, Gleyber is not a bad player. I know he can be streaky at times, but he is a good baseball player.
He's a decent baseball player. He's not a great baseball player. He's not a good player.
We're splitting hairs here. He's Gleyber Torres.
What value do you think he has? Now he's in his arbitration years. He made $6.5 million this year. He's no longer a low cost option for anybody. He's essentially he's going to probably make $12 million next year. Who's gonna take him and give you a significant value of return unless you're going to try and swap quote unquote problems?
I don't know if you're going to get a significant return for him, but then I think it opens up either getting DJ back to playing second, and then if you can get rid of Donaldson, you bring in someone to play third, or if you want to figure out between Volpe and Peraza who's going to play second and who's going to play short. I think
Torres clearly showed this past year at a full season back at second base. There was clear comfort because his offensive numbers are better since his 2019 campaign where he hit 38 home runs, 24 homers, 76 RBIs, a 257 batting average. You would take that out of your second baseman. And I'm not saying that this is the top 5 second basemen all of baseball, but yeah, I think there is value there, Joe.
I don't know how much though, but again, this goes back to the Yankee problem. 310 on base percentage for him, 308 on base percentage for Donaldson. They don't generate the catch position is black hole. They don't.
No one is going to be here defending Donaldson. You don't need to keep.
They got guys.
No one wants him. No one is saying he's good.
They got guys that are black holes, and you're gonna turn around. You're gonna trade every single one. I just don't think it's practical. I think everybody's dreaming at what on base percentage wise. Hicks was actually your best of the three of them, but I just don't see where you're best
at the end of the year, frankly. And then he, drop the ball and then didn't pick it up.
And listen, the idea that Torres is not a major disappointment. This guy was supposed to be your number 3 hole hitter. I mean, this guy was supposed to be right there with Aaron Judge, hitting 300 and hitting 30 plus home runs. He is not that. He's not that. And that kills the Yankees because the Yankees are constructed not to have more than just Judge. And let's not forget, the biggest anchor in that lineup is Giancarlo Stanton. And listen, I know Tom loves Giancarlo Stanton, but Giancarlo Stanton did nothing for 2.5 months up until he got a little hot right before the playoffs, and they got a couple of hits in the first round. But that is a $30 million boat anchor on your payroll. You cannot build a team.
Not $30 million. I don't know how many times we have to go over. It's not $30 million, but I mean, Joe, we can keep going over it.
This is a 5-year conversation here. Like this has been the conversation basically since the 2018 season.
There's 297 on base.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, we've got. I mean, Rich and I covered this all of last year, and like Yankee fans were covering it forever. The Yankees made a decision They traded for Stan instead of waiting a year to sign Harper, and look how that's worked out for them.
Joe, to your point, you're absolutely right. That trade has killed them and buried them more than anything because it closed so many other opportunities down the line. And what kind of
doors that they closed themselves.
They could have had. Maybe they could have. Judge would have already been signed if Stanton didn't exist on this team. And that's a fact. So there's a ripple effect, but they're stuck. We can't reset the wheel. We can't go back in time here. So I want this one last point here before we move on to the rest or the remainder of the postseason, which is the World Series, of course. Aaron Boone. We didn't really touch on Aaron Boone. We kind of threw out Aaron Boone's name here and there. What is going to be Aaron Boone's status come the 2023 season, Tom?
He will be the manager of the New York Yankees.
Why?
Because Brian Cashman is going to be the GM of the New York Yankees, and Aaron Boone is a puppet for the Yankees front office, and he does what he is forced to do what they want him to do. And if they were to replace Aaron Boone, they will just basically still have Aaron Boone as a manager. He'll just have a different name. It doesn't matter. Aaron Boone is going to be the manager until they make a full just gut job of that front
Tom,
office.
I could tell you what name it would be if it's not Aaron Boone. Chris Woodward. That's who it would be. That's who it would be. They had interest in him before. He's a free agent manager. He's the guy.
You know who it should be? If you want to talk about former players, I think Miguel Cairo would be the awesome fit. I love Miguel Cairo, former Yankee too.
Yeah, it is. But again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that like Boone has to do what the front office tells him to do, and the way they and it's not even just an analytics thing. I know a lot of Yankee fans like to be lazy and say like, well, they're just run by analytics. A lot of teams are run by analytics. If you listen to K's rant today, he goes over how much the Astros are solely run by analytics, but they also allow Dusty Baker to be a manager of a team.
Oh,
it doesn't.
Tom, I gotta love this one. A-Rod.
No, come on.
Oh my God, A-Rod's. A-Rod, the number 4, number 5 home run hitter of all time. He's gonna have the team just sack bunting in the second inning every game because apparently all he cares about is bunts. And I would take like if you told me that like we got rid of the front office and we cleared out the front office and we brought in a new GM and they're like, listen, A-Rod's gonna be I would take that over what we have.
I love
Corey.
it.
Yeah. I actually think Boone is also going to be here next year as well. And whether we agree or disagree, should he be here is a whole nother conversation. But,
right.
I mean, you look at his contract. Last offseason signed a 3-year contract extension. That's going to run through the 2024 season with a club option for 25. And I think it's going to be one of two things with the Yankees. If they don't win a World Series or get to the World Series in the Aaron Boone era, they're either going to fire him as soon as they miss the playoffs. So if they miss the playoffs next year, even if they're a game out, I think Boone's gone. But either way, once you get to that final season, if you have 1 year left in the contract, that's where you tend to see managers get fired when you're down to that final season left. I think the Yankees as a franchise have a lot of respect for Aaron Boone. And even though a lot of fans want him out the door, I do think that he's going to be there next year.
Yeah, Boone's not going anywhere, and I think the main reason, I think if you lost to the Guardians, he would have been fired. I think the main reason he's not going anywhere right now is because it really wasn't much. All right, we could question the Clark Schmidt decision. Boone wasn't making the difference in the series. You were losing to the Astros no matter who the manager was. As far as Cashman is concerned, listen, and Yankee fans don't want to hear this, and it's brought up a lot, but at the end of the day, Cashman is as much a part of the Yankees as Hal Steinbrenner is. You got to remember, Hal Steinbrenner was in his 20s when Cashman came to the organization. He was 27, 28 years old when Cashman got the job as the general manager. Cashman is the guy who held Hal's hand and showed him the ropes as his father's health declined. He is a brother to Hal. And the fact of the matter is, Hal is not going to ever fire his brother. Two reasons. One, because Cashman will get a job in a heartbeat. 1,000%. In an absolute heartbeat. And number two, it's not the Yankee way. The Yankees run the organization as a family. They have for the last 2.5 decades since George basically came back from suspension. And that's just the reality. Cashman is going to be here as long as he chooses to be here.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I agree. He will, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is how
tomorrow, if he's relieved of his duties tomorrow, 20 plus teams will be on his phone trying to bring him into his organization, and
Mets
probably
would
every
hire him
other
as the
team in
president of
baseball in
baseball.
some kind of executive capacity.
I was gonna say
to try to
one
bring
thing
him in.
I did see a little bit floating around is what if they would make Cashman like a team president or something like that, and then
BBO.
bring in a new GM. But I think Cashman would still have his hands.
I think he's
over
the SVP already.
He is, but if they they basically say, listen, you're the team president, what the hell ever, and we're gonna bring in a new front office and a new GM to actually run the baseball part of things. I don't think it would matter because I think Cashman would still have his hands all over things. Like I was trying to say before, like the problem is Hal inherited a team that he did nothing to earn besides being born, and he doesn't see. I know he spends plenty of money and that's not it, but the issue is that Cashman needs to go, and I know he's been there for so long, but like you need to change it up. There was another thing floating around Yankees Twitter a lot the other day. It was the between the Astros and the Yankees, and it was like the top like 5 or 6 people in each organization, how long they've been in the organization, not necessarily in their roles, but just been with the team. The Astros, granted, they were all refreshed essentially after 2017 because they cheated, but all new people come from different organizations, different minds. Everyone in the Yankees have been in place for like 20 years. Mm-hmm. Cashman's been with the organization since the 80s. There's no new ideas or life being brought into the organization. And if they are, they're just going to be shout down by these guys who have been there for 30, 40 years. So you're never going to change if you keep this the old way. That's why they need to clean house, but they're not going to do it. Because they're complacent. Because Hal's complacent. Because again, he hasn't done anything to earn any of this.
And Joe, you mentioned that the Guardian series, if the Yankees had dropped the Guardian series, Boone would be out of a job.
I think so.
But you don't think getting swept and losing in your home ballpark in the ALCS constitutes that firing?
No, because you at least got beat by a better team. If you got beat by the Guardians, you lost to an inferior team. And I think the Yankees have this legacy that they don't lose to inferior teams, no matter what. If we get beat by our equal, if we get beat by the Red Sox, we get beat by Houston, we get beat by an equal adversary, that's one thing. But when you lose to an inferior team, basically anybody in the AL Central, the Twins, the Guardians, the A's, if you lost to any of them, it would, I think, just that mentality is it's an instant firing for whoever's manager. And at that particular point in time, I mean, he made an extremely questionable decision that almost cost him the series. I mean, he brought in Clark Schmidt in the bottom of the 9th inning with a man on up 2 runs. That's a board.
He's never been
series, in. That's a fireable.
Exactly. It's not even Clark Schmidt's fault.
No, it's not. He shouldn't be in that situation.
And that's the biggest thing. Because Clark Schmidt, in his experience with the Yankees, he's the 5th starter and briefly this year as a long man option out of the pen. And what are you doing in his first playoff appearance? You're playing him in the biggest
he's had a good season. You don't put him in that spot.
Save the game.
Unbelievable. And I like Clark Schmidt. I think he's a good piece to have on your team. Just a very unfair spot for him to be in.
I agree. It's the same as like you have what's his name? Jesus Christ. Lefty Matt Carpenter, you choose to not let him go to game. The Texas series didn't mean anything. You chose to have him just hit balls in Somerset, and then you put him in the ALCS, and you wonder why he strikes out every time. It's like you're not putting these guys in position to do well. You started 3 different shortstops in 4 games in the ALCS, and you wonder why there was a miscommunication and the Glaber's throw to IKF wasn't handled because Peraza might want it here. Oswaldo might want it here, and IKF wants it here. Look at the play that Glaber and Peraza made in Houston. That was an amazing play, but you keep switching these things out.
Can I just say what's, as an overall trend, what is the obsession with these managers? And Roberts does it in Los Angeles all the time, where he puts guys who have never played or rarely play a position, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of a playoff run and you're putting guys in new positions they've never played in. He did it with Flux in center field. He misplayed a ball that almost cost him the entire series last year. I don't get why Gavin Lux isn't a center field. He played 5 games in center field, and now he's playing at center field in an NLCS or NLDS against the Braves last year.
I think if we talk about like where to blame analytics guys, I think that's where it is. I think they don't see why that matters. They see numbers. Did you see again? I keep going to the K rant from his radio show today. Did you see why they said Carpenter was in the lineup? Did you see the reasoning? It was because his bat speed during batting practice was similar enough to his bat speed when he was playing in June. That is why he was in the lineup. Because analytics looked at his bat speed in batting practice and said he's good to go. Last time he faced a pitch was in Somerset, New Jersey against a AAA guy, but because his bat speed was fast enough in batting practice, he's ready to play in the ALCS, and he's gonna go against a Verlander. Yep, that makes sense.
My critique on that one was after he went 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts and didn't even make contact with the pitch, even in foul territory. Right. Why is he in the game the next day?
Yeah,
what
doesn't make sense. How do you reward him with that? How do you I agree. 37-year-old to be on this roster?
I agree. There's a lot of desperation too, and they maybe they didn't have a lot of other great options, but it's that type of thinking that just plagues this organization and will plague it until they make wholesale changes, and those wholesale changes are not Aaron Boone.
Right. And we'll get more into the offseason plan for the Yankees and the Mets as well. Once we kind of dive into our off-season episodes, which is going to be coming up within the next month or so. But we're gonna continue with our postseason coverage and get into the chase to the championship between the Phillies and the Astros. Before we get there, Corey, best way to follow us all on social media.
If you want to follow us on social media, again, follow at Empire State of Baseball on Instagram and ESB Podcast on Twitter. If you want to follow us individually, you got myself at G Gory, Joe at JR Pugs, Rich at Rich J Rivera, and Tom at T Wospil on Twitter. All right. As we just mentioned here, we're going to shift gears a little bit. We spent a lot of time on the ALCS, but we do have another league in baseball, and that is the National League. We'll do a little bit of an NLCS review and a little World Series preview. So we just mentioned Yankees losing 4-0 in the series overall to the Astros. Phillies defeating the Padres 4-1 overall in that series. Nobody, and I mean nobody, showed the brackets before. Nobody had the Phillies winning that wild card matchup, and here they are representing the National League. Again, here you go. See, loss.
I don't know what happened to Tom's. But
we
Tom
know
didn't have the Phillies.
But we know it's a loss. Losses all around. None of us had the Phillies advancing over here. But here you go. Here is the actual postseason picture. Pretty much all of us had Astros in the American League, but we got the Phillies representing the National League. And listen, Joe, I know you're a Met fan as well. We've watched a lot of Mets-Phillies games this season. It seems like Mets-Phillies, the Mets dominated that series this year. Them and the Nationals, I felt like the Mets were always killing those two teams. We thought this team was fundamentally flawed, poor defense, pitching wasn't clutch, batters getting hurt. We saw Harper miss a lot of time, Schwarber miss some time, and here we are. The Phillies are in the World Series. I mean, what's your thought here with that?
Yeah, listen, I mean, part of the postseason, part of what makes baseball great is when you get hot at the right time, and this alludes to the 2019 Mets, it even alludes to 2017 Yankees a little bit. When you get hot at the right time and you go into October as one of the hotter teams in baseball, you can put yourself in a position to beat up on teams that nobody expects. I mean, nobody expects the Phillies to walk in there and beat the Braves, who just had to slug it out with the Mets every single day. Of the season. The Phillies kind of coasted in, and then all of a sudden, here comes Harper, here comes Schwarber, and here comes Rhys Hoskins.
Yeah,
and they're killing the ball out of the ballpark. So, the Rockies. What year were the Rockies in it? That was 2007. That was another prime example. The Rockies got in as the wild card, and they were red hot. They just cleaned through.
The Washington Nationals, 2019.
Yeah, the Nationals, another one.
There.
So, I mean, it goes to show you in baseball, sometimes it's not about the best team in baseball. Sometimes it's about being the hottest team in baseball.
Yep.
And, listen, the Phillies are still a flawed team. You saw in both of these series, you saw the defense come out, the bad defense come out. They had two balls that were absolutely routine that should have been double plays that were just flat out dropped on the infield. There was overthrows. There was mishandles at third base. But the difference is Harper and Hoskins are hitting the ball into orbit, so it doesn't matter.
Yep.
So I think that we have to be careful with the Phillies. They're a dangerous team. I'm curious at how these 4 off days might cool their bats off a little bit. I think we've seen that to other hot teams. I think the Rockies were a prime example. They won, they swept, I think, the DS and the CS. Then they had a 7-day wait between the end of the NLCS and the World Series, and they just fell dead asleep in the postseason. So I think that can happen. I think that's something that we have to be concerned about with the Phillies.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Astros are just a flat-out better team.
Yeah.
Let me ask this question. I hate to go back to the Yankees. What would have happened if
I do too.
Rizzo, Judge, Stanton, and Torres all did damage in the postseason?
You'd have a different story.
So
I mean, you'd have a
to see the Phillies' best 4 hitters all hit at the same time. I mean, it's wild. What you mentioned Hoskins and Harper, who won the NLCS MVP, but JT Realmuto hit the inside the park home run. He's had some big RBI spots. Kyle Schwarber is still hitting the crap out of the ball, which he did 41 times in the offseason, in the regular season. It's great when everything is clicking at the right time, and it's all about momentum right now for Philadelphia. The home crowd is rocking. It's been a fun brand of baseball. Not much fun for the Mets fans, who are definitely going to be rooting hard for the Astros this coming week.
That's
But
for sure.
a shocker to see the Phillies up to this level. And hell, last week, I got to say, I was the only one of this broadcast, I know Tom wasn't here for it, that said the Phillies were going to advance to the World Series. And here we are.
And
Phillies
here we are.
Astros in the World
I love that this World Series is basically just a proxy war between Yankees and Mets fans.
That's true.
Where it's just Yankees fans are like, let's go Phillies.
Yep.
This huge Philly fans and Mets fans rooting for the Astros.
Last year as well.
It's like a worst case scenario almost for New York sports when it comes to.
I was gonna say, because I don't think Yankee fans really have a lot of love for the Phillies, but like, listen, I will happily root for them.
Yeah.
I will happily.
Oh yeah, it
take
was nice
out my
Nats over
Philly
the Houston
fanatic
Astros in
hat that I
19,
don't have, and
or whatever it was, 2021. What year did they win? I forget now. 2019. Damn.
Yes.
Yes, it was nice rooting for the Nats over the Astros in 2019. It was nice rooting for the Braves over the Astros last year. I'm going to be doing the same thing with the Phillies. And but here's the thing. It's not going to happen. The Astros are wiping the floor with the Philadelphia Phillies. Because if we're going to start the room with predictions here, I got Astros sweeping the Philadelphia Phillies.
Listen, I mean, I hope you're right. I really hope you're right. And to me, I mean, I said it before, this reminds me so much of the 2015 Mets where things were clicking. The Cubs were like the big hot team that year. The Dodgers were a big hot team that year. And here comes the little old Mets. Got into the playoffs in the last few weeks of the season, ended up going to the World Series. That's this year's Phillies team. We know the Mets lost that series 4-1 in 2015. I could actually see the same. I want to say it's going to be the same, but part of me is afraid that the Phillies are hot at the right time. But I'm going to stick with my guns here. I said this reminds me of 15. I'm going 4-1 Astros.
Okay. It's crazy when you line the two teams up how similar they are to the 2015 Mets. I mean, the offense is coming from a few guys at the same time. You had Cespedes and Duda as your big power hitters. You got Harper and Schwarber, with the relatively same effect. You got the big starting pitchers, 2 of which came over from the Mets in Wheeler, Syndergaard, and Nola, where the Mets had Wheeler, Syndergaard, and DeGrom and Harvey. So it's an amazing team. There's an inconsistency in the back end of the bullpen that makes you nervous. There's a lack of defensive sure-handedness that ended up biting the Mets between Murphy and Duda at the end there. I mean, they are an incredible parallel when you line them up next to each other. They really are. So, I'm kind of hoping the fate's the same. I would agree with, I think the Astros, I'm going to give the Phillies one game in their building, especially after this abnormally long break. I don't know why they're waiting until Friday to start the World Series, but I think that's going to cool off the bats, and I'll give them one of Wheeler or Nola's starts in their building.
Yeah, I think, Joe, what you said, too, about giving them one in the building, I'll give them the first game. Offense, I'm going to see them putting up a crooked number. They're going to put up like a 10 spot that first game back in their ballpark, and everyone's like, oh, here come the Phillies. They're coming back. And then the Astros will close it out there and win it 4-1.
I gotta say, if I think Joe makes a good point that the Phillies could cool off. They are red hot right now, and the layoff could hurt them. If they can win a game in Houston, though, which it's possible. Houston is a much better team, and they should sweep or only lose one game in this series. But if they lose a game, if they can get a game in Houston, and they go back to Philly, to those you talk about the Bronx Zoo, Philly is full with animals, just absolute ravenous, disgusting animals. And Tom, that will be such a hostile environment. And I really think Phillies could give them a run. I'm going to take the Astros in 6. I think the Phillies, if they could somehow stay hot, they can get a game in Houston. I think they have 3 just absolute drag out, knockdown games in Philly. Houston's a much better team. They really are, and they're gonna win the World Series. But my God, those animals they're gonna take, like, if Bryce Harper hits like a home run in a big home run, or Rhys Hoskins has a big home run, the stadium might collapse. That stadium might collapse. And they might have to delay the World Series weeks while they either rebuild or they move somewhere else, because it's gonna be insane.
See, the one thing I will say is there's one team in baseball that is used to playing in hostile environments. It's the Astros.
They are, but I think we all know that there is.
I know
there's
Philly
no hostile like a Philly hostile, and I think
the Bronx is pretty hostile.
Tom, we got to go back to Miles.
Maybe not yesterday, but the Bronx is. But I'm saying
Yankee fans don't throw batteries at people. Like, listen, the Phillies, it's a different. It really is a different. I think it's a different thing. It is. I think what helps them is a team like the Yankees, who now for years and years have been in the playoffs and good, and had so many expectations on them. I think the fans do get a little complacent about going to, like, a world, a playoff games. There even was a lot of, granted, it was bad weather last night, but there was a lot of empty seats in the Bronx last night. The Philly fans, considering they came out of nowhere, and it's been so long, I think it's going to be insane. It's going to be absolutely insane there. And I think it is going to be a different level. I really do. I think it's I don't know. I still think the Astros are going to win in 6, and if the Astros swept them, I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't know, man. It's
clean sweep.
Houston's in for something.
Going with the clean sweep. And the only advantage the Phillies have in taking one game in Houston is that they'll send Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola in those first 2 games, which would be an outstanding pitching matchup if the Houston Astros are countering with Justin Verlander and Framber Valdez. Phillies could have a shot if one of those 2 pitchers do what they've been doing in the regular season, but we've seen Nola blow up before. I'm still going with Astros dominate first 2 games, and they don't crumble to the pressure of the Philly fans. Clean sweep. Astros in 4.
I think Wheeler, they might hold Wheeler for game 3. Because if you hold Wheeler for game 3, he could theoretically pitch a 7.
Who would be the game 2? Syndergaard
or Gibb?
Who's the game 2?
Suarez, yeah.
Oof.
I would think that Nola's definitely first, because Wheeler pitched the other day. Yeah. So it's Nola's turn no matter what. I'm curious how they're going to handle that.
Yeah,
because
a good point.
I would personally hold Wheeler back for the 3rd game, because I don't want to waste both my best pitchers in Houston when I'm going back in my building, and Wheeler's been so effective in his building the last 2 starts.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. World Series starts on Friday. Long layoff of no baseball because, the Yankees couldn't get anything done. So shame on them. And hell, even the Padres, too. Padres got the spit smacked out of them. by the Phillies. So we're going to move on to a player to be named later. Before we get there, Joe, what's the best way to subscribe to us on the tube?
You can subscribe to us on YouTube for full episodes of Empire State of Baseball. Just search In the Bar on YouTube. Our page is up there with all our past episodes, clips, and highlights. You can hit that like and share button and subscribe on your mobile device or your web browser as you see fit.
Yep, that's the best way to listen to all our past episodes, probably our old predictions. If you go back to the earlier episodes of Empire State of Baseball, how we probably butchered our World Series predictions because nobody obviously had the Phillies going this far. So let's move on to a player to be named later. It's our Guess the Player bit. I guess we'll start on the Mets end of things. Corey, Joe, what do you got for us here?
Yeah, I got a player for the group over here. All right. This former player was a positional player who played pretty much all of his career in both of the in the American League East and the National League East. So this was a guy who's played in both American and National League, but primarily through the East. He's played a grand total of 28 games outside of both Eastern divisions. It's a former positional player.
Former positional player, played in both the AL and NL East, you said?
Correct.
Okay.
With one of those tenures being with the New York Metropolitans.
I think
Carlos
so.
Delgado.
Negative.
That was the first person I thought of, too. And
I knew it wasn't it, but
Yeah.
Delgado seems to be a good guess on this
it
show.
seems like a pretty easy.
He covers like a lot of bases.
It's kind of a light.
Yeah.
Cliff Floyd.
Not Cliff Floyd.
It's a
Not
good
Cliff
one.
Floyd.
Okay.
Home run hitter, contact hitter. What are we looking at?
I can tell you for sure this is not a home run hitter.
Juan Pierre.
Not Juan Pierre. The most home runs this player has hit in a season was 13. Every other season was below 7.
John Buck.
Not John Buck, but actually not. I mean, it's not a catcher, but it's not a bad guess.
Damn, I felt good about that, John.
Couple of similarities, but not related to catching.
Take Omir Santos out of it.
So yeah, you think Omir Santos out of that, definitely.
All right. Over the course of this player had a 12-year career. Again, all but 28 games or within one of the East leagues.
Was this person ever an all-star?
This person was never an all-star and never played in over 104 games.
Fucking Lenny Harris again?
Not Lenny Harris.
It's just Lenny Harris.
Is it Lenny Harris again?
I have one more.
No, I mean, not Luis Castillo, right?
Not Luis Castillo, but I will say, between the Delgado and the Buck, there are a couple of guesses there where 2 of the teams were actually correct.
Blue Jay.
2 of the teams were actually correct.
Well, it couldn't be Castillo. He played for the Twins for a while.
You look at Buck, you look at Delgado. Bulk of his career was actually with the Blue Jays. But he did play a few seasons with the Metropolitans.
Roger Cedeno.
Not Roger Cedeno.
As you say, Raul Mondesi, but he's a home run hitter.
Roberto Alomar. No, you said never an all-star.
It is an infielder.
But
I have one more hint, but I'll give you guys...
John Olerud.
Not John Olerud.
No, he was Seattle.
Final hint. His name was actually mentioned on tonight's show. It was after I picked him.
Aaron Boone.
No. His name was mentioned.
Brian Cashman.
Negative. Name was mentioned on tonight's show. I found it hysterical because
Chris Woodward.
Yes, Chris Woodward.
Yeah,
when I heard his name come up, I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Chris Woodward. That's hilarious. Yep. Yeah, I forgot he was a New York Metropolitan for a bit. Did play with the Blue Jays as shortstop, and he's going to be the manager of the Yankees next year. So that's very good. All right, so the Yankees side of it also. So my player also is a position player. Also, never an all-star. Also played in both leagues, but didn't really dominate in any specific. Oh, actually, you know what? He did play 7 years in the National League West.
Ooh.
7
Okay.
Now that I'm
years.
looking at the teams, he played 7 years in the National League West between two teams.
Rich also told me who it was, so I am.
And Tom
abstaining.
knows who it is.
Yeah.
Position player or pitcher?
Position.
It's a position player. He played. Oh, maybe I should have given you his Yankee background. He played for the Yankees in one season, so it's one of those one-season guys in 36 games in the 2013 season.
Scott Hairston.
No, this guy was known as a power hitter. He lit up the league with his power stats for probably 5 of his first 6 seasons.
Chris Carter.
Not Chris Carter. Good guess. Good position. Not Chris Carter.
Oh, Chris Carter.
You said NL West, right?
NL West. He played 7 years in the NL West between 2 teams.
Carlos Quentin.
Not Carlos Quentin. Never was a Yankee. Not Travis Hafner, Steve. I think we used Hafner for this segment, like not too long ago.
We use him for Guess the Graph. I have a Hafner.
You have a Hafner graph?
Yeah, I think we used him last season.
Primarily in the West, 2013. Yankees.
This man hit a big boy amount of home runs, 298 home runs.
Over 13 years. And he's a former player.
I was gonna say Vernon Wells, but I don't think he spent time.
We
in the
used
West.
Vernon Wells before, not Vernon Wells.
Yeah, was a Yankee for a minute.
A lot of home runs. I like it.
Probably around the same time this guy was a Yankee.
But you're right. Also, another right-handed hitter. So you're in that
Is it the
ballpark.
same year? It's in
2013. Yeah, it's the same year. Actually, he was teammates with.
So he was teammates with Vernon Wells in New York. Oh God, there's so many disappointing people on this team. Oh,
the 2013 TC was wild with the amount of people that was on that team.
You know who it's not would be a good guess in here? Who was the listed as the first baseman on the 2013 Yankees? Lyle Overbay.
Oh wow!
That'd be an amazing guess.
Wow.
And actually, Steve Cernowski did guess Lyle Overbay. Look at that.
Yeah, there you
Lyle
go.
Overbay.
Not Lyle Overbay.
The home run.
It's gotta be somebody so random.
That's what's throwing me off. Is the
Now
home run.
I will say he is.
Travis Hafner was also on that team.
I think I got it. What the hell's his name? Mark Reynolds.
It is Mark Reynolds.
Yeah.
Google is at your fingertips. I love it. Mark Reynolds.
No, I remember.
Exemplified the
retired
3
recently,
true outcome
right?
guy, Tom. 204 strikeouts, 204, 223, 211, 196, all led the league from the 2008 to 2011 seasons. And yes, he was part of that fuck around crew in the.
I want to just name some guys on the 2013 Yankees before we
go
finish
for
here.
it. I love this team.
Lyle Overbay.
Yes.
Jason Nix.
Yes.
Vernon Wells.
Yes.
Ichiro.
Yes.
Travis Hafner.
Yes.
Alfonso Soriano came.
Yes.
Mark Reynolds. Kevin Youkilis.
Yeah.
Francisco Cervelli.
These
are all people who played on the 2013.
What a
It's
squad.
like an all-timers day roster.
And you also you have your Jeters still there and your A-Rods. Eduardo Nunez is kicking around. Brett Gardner, of course, is out there playing 145 games like
the
an absolute
average
champ.
age of that team had to be like 38 years old.
Wow.
Ichiro played 150 games that year.
They had so
At 39.
many.
What a just a
I love Detroit.
unit
One of my favorite non-Mets.
oh, he is like I barely consider him a Yankee because it was so at the end of the career, but like, oh God, I love that guy.
Oh, he could be my leader hitter any day of the week.
There were so many ragtag guys in that team. Like, I feel like if Joe put an application, he could have played for those 2013 Yankees. You know,
they had a winning record. They finished 85 and 77.
Okay.
They still managed to put something together, but didn't make the playoffs. I think that was the first time they missed the playoffs since 2008, up until that season. So, 2013, Mark Reynolds, Chris Woodward, future manager of the New York Yankees, Chris Woodward. We love to hear it. All right, before we get to our thank yous, just got a bit of news here on the show in regards to our next episode. So our next episode's not going to be live next Monday, which would be October 31st, which is Halloween. It has nothing to do with Halloween, more just to do with the fact that who gives a damn about the Astros and Philadelphia Phillies. But we will be back here in 2 weeks for that episode, which will follow the World Series. So we'll obviously review our World Series, in full. We'll preview the offseason that's going to be for the New York Yankees and Mets, predict the MLB awards. We'll get into it. Hopefully Aaron Boone will be fired by then. Who knows?
I'll just say other big breaking news. Jets just acquired James Robinson from the Jags. After Chris
Yeah,
Paul
that's a
tore
big
his
trade.
ACL.
That's
So,
a big trade.
I know there's
I
a lot
like
of Jets fans out there who
Yep.
listen to the show. So big
So,
news for you guys.
next Monday, no, don't worry about baseball. It's back to Monday Night Football for all y'all. We'll see you here in 2 weeks' time, 7 p.m. Monday, November the 7th, for episode number 30, which will also be the final episode of season 1 before we get into our off-season episodes in November. Corey, let's start up the thank you train. What do you got?
I want to thank the fans, as always, for tuning in. Always love to hear from the chooches in the chat. But I'm actually also going to thank Joe Douglas for going out and actually acquiring starting NFL caliber running back in James Robinson. We needed that after Breece Hall just got hurt. So thank you, Joe Douglas, for going out.
There you go.
Thank you for the Astros for handling the Yankees and giving me this pleasurable episode of Empire State Baseball.
Sure was.
I'd like to thank Bryce Harper for hitting a really big home run off of Framber Valdez. Just this is like a an advanced thank you, and although not beating the Astros, giving them a little bit of a scare.
I want to thank the Yankees for getting swept, so we didn't have to extend this misery for another few days. I love listening to all the Yankee general managers just pop up on WFAN today. It was hilarious listening to everybody's trade proposals and the signings with unlimited money. So I want to thank Yankee fans for being absolute fucking idiots today. It was great. All right, so we'll see you all here next in 2 weeks' time, November the 7th, Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Take care.